Okay. So say your name.
Braden
What's your last name?
Moore.
Okay, so we got Braden Moore here. Braden, you are 15?
Yep.
15 years old. You're going into your sophomore year of high school, right?
Mm-hmm.
You go to Madison High School.
Yep.
Okay, how much do you weigh?
210.
And how tall are you?
5'8".
So 5'8". In this pitch, we got you 65, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, you thought you were going to hit 70. That was your goal today, right?
Yep.
Hit 65. How'd you feel about that?
Not too bad. I obviously wanted to hit higher, but I can only do what my body allows me.
Okay. Yeah, so 65, do you feel like you could throw a little harder than that right now?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so usually guys throw 2 miles per hour or 3 miles per hour, a little harder in game, live hitters with adrenaline going and stuff like that. So I can definitely see 67, 68, or 68, 67. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Okay. So yeah, you started at 63, and then your top was 65. Make sense?
Yep.
Cool. All right, so let's watch this in slow motion. Have you seen yourself in slow motion before?
Yes.
Okay, cool. So let's watch it together. Okay. So what are some of the things that you guys have been working on?
Getting my back leg higher so I don't drag it to slow down my velocity.
So back leg. So tell me when to stop.
Right there.
Right here?
Yeah.
Okay, so you're focusing on something that happens after you throw the ball?
Yeah, we've been focusing on that because I would drag my back foot and it would slow down my velocity.
So you would drag your back foot pretty much all the way over here? I can see that. Okay. Okay, what else have you been working on?
I've been working on also getting my arm angle higher because what would happen is I would start throwing sidearm and that would be terrible for my arm. There it is right there.
Yep. Sidearm. Now, do you think... So talk to me about arm angle. What do you think needs to happen for you to get that arm up?
Well, keep my shoulder in. That would very much help whenever I keep my shoulder in so I don't fly myself out and throw that way.
Can you explain that to me? Let me see it again.
So I don't do that.
So pull?
Yeah, pull my shoulder out and then
Okay.
so just keep it in so I go.
Okay, so you think you need to be here?
Yeah.
Okay. So you are 65 right there, right?
Mm-hmm.
I didn't see you throw one pitch when we were playing catch over that arm slot. You were always where?
Right around here.
Uh,
Like right around here.
You're about really low 3/4. You're about
Yeah.
here. So you're about as sidearm as they go. You can't change that. Why?
Because that would change my whole mechanics.
Well, that's your natural arm slot.
Yeah.
How long has he been throwing like that for?
I think ever since I've started
Yeah,
baseball.
he's always been like.
That's
here.
you, man. Can't change that. Now,
Maybe that's why over that high school year they always yelled at me.
pitching or in the outfield?
All of them.
What?
They yelled at me for the sidearm slot. They don't like it.
On the mound?
Yeah.
Oh, it's pretty nasty on the mound. Can you imagine if you were 90 miles per hour from there? They ain't gonna say anything then, would they?
Yeah, that's why I don't say anything to Gabe.
He throws hard, right?
Oh yeah, he throws 92. So
From there?
yeah,
Yeah, very good. So, how tall is he?
he's actually only like 2 inches taller than me.
Nice. So, is he a fast runner?
Yeah.
There you go. Okay. So sidearm. The only way for us to get really on top of the ball, right? So if you can imagine, right? Release point up here, right? The only way for you to get up there is I kind of want you to think about Tim Lincecum. You know who that is?
No, I haven't. I've heard.
No, that is-
I know who it is.
I've
yeah.
heard of the name, but
Yeah. So go home and go watch him. He throws from the same release point you do. And then when you watch the video, you'll be like, "What the heck is Coach talking about?" Because he releases the ball up here. Here's what you have to understand about arm slot, right? This is your natural arm slot. Some guys throw here. That's me. Some guys are here. Some guys are here. You don't change this. 'Cause this is just where you naturally are. Does that make sense? The only way for you to now get on top of the ball is by tilting your shoulders. Where's my arm slot now?
all the way up here.
Now I'm up.
But you're also still sidearm.
Doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Don't worry about sidearm. That's where you naturally throw.
Yeah.
If you try focusing on this, that's where your injuries are going to come. That's where you're going to get hurt. Whether you throw harder or slower, it doesn't really matter.
You're gonna have Tommy John by the time you.
Right. If you throw hard enough, yeah, you will, because it's gonna put a lot of stress in there. You're not used to throwing that way, and that's just not you naturally. You're naturally here. All you have to do is now tilt your body to the side as you're throwing. So as opposed to being here when you throw, now we're here. Now where's the ball?
It's right all the way up here,
Makes
so
sense?
it's on line.
This is your arm slot. The only thing that changed was what?
You tilted your shoulders.
You're tilting your shoulders. And that's if you wanted to start being more over the top.
Yeah.
Right? You don't have to necessarily do that. I'm going to force you to do a little bit of that. As far as you want, that's on you. Right? You can try to be strictly over the top if you want to. If not, you can kind of meet me halfway with it. Right? The only thing I need is that elbow to be over the shoulder.
Alright.
Anything past that point, that's on you. So right now you're here. If I tilt you just a little bit, now that elbow's on top or over the shoulder. But I did not change it by moving my arm. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So go like this real quick. Okay, now lift your arm. What turned on?
This, like I felt that right there.
Exactly. You do that every single day, you're going to hurt yourself. All you have to do is be in a relaxed position and move your shoulder to the side, and you'll throw the same, if not harder. Does that make sense? Now, you talked to me about yanking your shoulder or your glove side, right?
Yeah.
Right, your glove side wants to go that way. Okay? Now, if you can fix this, now when you start yanking, you're going to go where?
You're gonna go straight down.
Down. So now everything's going forward.
So instead
Towards
of doing
home.
that, I'm doing
Right,
that.
because since you're here, this is getting you away from home plate. This is getting you closer. Does that make sense? That's why that tilt is such a huge thing. It's a huge thing for playing outfield, and it's a huge thing for pitching on the mound. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. So, what else have you been working on?
Well, I guess just getting a farther stretch too, instead of just because I would be like right here.
Stride?
But, yeah,
Talking
farther
about stride length?
Yeah. 'Cause
Okay.
That shorter stride that would also help. That would also keep me dragging my back foot because I couldn't get my leg over or I'd be unbalanced.
Yeah.
And then so that longer stride has been helping me a lot getting that foot over like that.
Gotcha. Yeah, so stride length, stride length is based on height, depending on your height. So if you're 5'8", we're looking for, it doesn't matter what your height is, we're looking for 80% of your height. That's what we need. Okay? Anything above 80%, studies show that that's where high velocities kind of sit. All the guys that throw harder.
Aldis Chapman.
Well, Chapman's on a league of his own.
Yeah, he's also what, 6 foot.
Sorry.
Yeah. Well, he's 6'3",
Yeah.
and he's not at 80%. He's actually at 105% of his height.
Yeah, he's ridiculous.
Does that make sense? I
Yeah.
think I get close to like 85, and then after 85, it just doesn't feel comfortable for me. But all I ask for is try to get to that 80%, right? I'd say you're pretty close to, I want to say 60, 65% of your height.
So instead of getting down there, I need to be more down there towards that line.
Yeah, you'd probably be more like here.
Yeah.
Right here. So it has to be your heel. So it's not based on your toe. It's based on your heel. So wherever your heel is. And we'll go in there and I'll show you. I'll give you a better example on how to measure it and stuff like that. Does that make sense? So yeah, stride length is huge. Problem is, so there's really two ways to throw hard, right? You can be really rotational, which means rotational, right? Or you can be linear towards home, right? I'm going to teach you to be more linear. Right? I was kind of like you when I pitched, very rotational. Didn't really get much movement going down and forward down the mound. Everything was kind of coming around the mound when I threw it. Kind of like what I saw from you. Does that make sense? So I'm going to teach you how to be a lot more linear. That's going to give you a bigger stride. It's going to get you more on top of the ball and all that good stuff. But you have to understand when we do these change-ups here, or these changes, your change-up, your curveball, and cutter, they're all going to change.
Yeah.
Everything's going to be a lot different. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So now your curveball, instead of being like this, it's going to be more down. Not a bad change, is it?
Not too bad. That'd
Right.
probably be better for me.
Absolutely. Now, the change-up is going to look different, but it's going to be nastier, too. Does that make sense? So you're going to lose your baby for a little bit, but you'll get it back, I promise. Right? There's no point in throwing a 60-mile-per-hour change-up when you start throwing 75, 80. Make sense?
Yeah.
So those things will change a little bit. And if you're okay with that,
Perfectly fine with that.
perfectly fine with that. Cool.
Got a lot of time to practice anyway.
Absolutely. Well, yeah, you're going into your sophomore year. Absolutely. And you're a lefty. Okay. All right. Anything else that you've been working on?
Besides outside, just working my own body out, not really.
You mean like training? You're talking about training?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Yeah, we'll take after this video. We'll talk about lifting and all that stuff and what I expect and all that. Okay. All right. So I'll start with what I think. Okay. So as you get to your leg lift, the biggest thing I want to see from a picture is I want to start seeing movement down the mount. Right. So when you hit the top of your leg lift, kind of right there, you start to go down.
Yeah.
So I want to see you start moving down the mound at the height of your leg. So right there, when you reach your height, I want to see your hips start moving as your knee stays back. That makes sense. So that way, when your hips are down here, your upper body is going to look in this position.
And that's going to give you more drive.
Well, that's going to give you more momentum down the mound, right? Because remember, we're pitching on a hill. We got to start moving down the mound before we throw. Okay, so that's the first thing I look for. Okay, as we start going down the mound, so before you went down the mound, you actually broke your hands, right? So I don't like to see the hand break until your hips are really far down the mound. The reason that is let's watch the arm. So as you broke your hands, now the arm starts to come up. So I don't want to see the arm go over the shoulder until your front foot hits the ground. If that makes sense. The longer the arm is up here, the longer it's waiting, which means the slower the arm is going to go. Right? We want to catapult our body forward, and then the arm's going to shoot out of our body as we throw. That's really what I'm going to help you understand.
So,
As late as possible. Yeah. There's going to be a moment where it's too late, and I'll tell you, hey, that's too late. Right? But I challenge you to start working on breaking your hands a little later, right? So watch. So the arm is now at the perfect position for you to land. If you would have landed in this position, we'd probably hit 70. Right? But watch where your arm is when you land. So you started to land right there, and before you even landed, where'd your arm start going?
side arm, and started going. Yeah.
That means you started to what?
Started to turn.
You started to throw.
Yeah.
Right. That means that your front foot wasn't on the ground before you started to throw. That means that there is no legs involved in this throw. Right? Your upper body, here's how I want you to understand this. When you land, or right before you land, that's when you push off. If we look at the legs are actually moving really well. Because watch, right before you land, what's your back foot doing?
It's already starting to come forward.
It's starting to turn. That's perfect. That's perfect timing. Like, this is actually pretty good, right? I'd like to see, obviously, your hips a little lower to the ground, a bigger stride. That's all fine and dandy, but I'm talking about the timing. Timing is huge. Your timing with your legs is actually really good. Problem is you're not letting the upper body do the timing that it needs to. So when you landed, right, so right here, so you landed right there, that's when the arm needs to start coming where?
And it starts to come back.
It needs to start coming up and back, yeah. And you're already going where?
I'm already starting to head towards the
Yeah, like you are less than 7 milliseconds, 0.7 milliseconds from throwing. So you're already throwing. Does that make sense? You have to understand how force works. When you jump, does it take time to jump, go down, and then come up? That takes time. It doesn't happen like that, right? You don't just jump, right?
Yeah.
It takes time to generate force. And you're not giving your upper body enough time to generate force from the legs to the hips to the shoulders to the arm. That takes time.
And that's where this comes into play with
The handbrake, the timing of the upper half. Absolutely. Yeah. So I want to kind of give you like a picture. This would actually be, if you would have landed right there with your upper half, see that?
Yeah.
Now imagine your feet on the ground. That would be perfect. Now watch. Watch where you are. See how you're still there? So watch. Boom. Now imagine your hips like this and your legs like this, but in that manner that I showed you.
That would have been going a lot harder.
Oh my God, yeah. You wouldn't know where the ball's going because you're not doing that naturally yet.
Yeah.
But we'll get you there. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Okay. And you talked about back leg driving in. You're doing a great job not letting that back leg drive in too much. Okay, it's still coming in. But remember, you can't train what happens after the ball is released.
Yeah.
What happens after the ball release is really what, as coaches, how we can see what's really happening. If you try to change what's happening after ball release, you're really giving us, it's going to be really hard for us to see good feedback, right? Because what happens after ball release is what dictates what you did earlier in the pitching mechanics, right? So you have to understand that the back leg simply comes up after you throw to help balance the chest going down, right? So if your chest is up here and you bring the back leg up, you're not really doing it. The reason your back leg was dragging in was because your chest kept going where?
Up
And back.
I could never. There was no way I was gonna be able to get my leg.
Right.
up.
Because this is simply a balancing act. This is so we don't fall forward. This leg's going to come up when that chest starts to go where?
Down.
That's all it is. Make sense? Right? Even though you did notice, hey, all the big leaguers, their legs come up. And you're like, and I was with you, dude. My leg always just went to the side. But it goes to the side because where my upper body going?
It's going over to the other
Going to
side.
the other side. That's all it is, right? So try to remember that. So you can watch video of yourself. Oh, what's my back leg doing today? That's based on what the upper body's doing. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So you're here at release, right there. So if I drew a line right there, that's where you're at release. Once we're done, you'll look like that. So your head will be here, and the ball will be here. How much farther is that from there?
Oh.
Yeah. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Like how much speed did we just pick up? Even if it's not even ball speed, how much closer are you to home if we get there?
Definitely a lot closer.
You see what I'm saying? Right? So when you're out here, your perceived velocity goes up. You're like, oh, hey, that ball catches up to me quick. Does that make sense? Because even if you were 6'5", it still wouldn't matter because you'd still be releasing from where?
Right around, yeah, and then,
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
You're starting to see it now?
yeah.
Okay.
I can see where it is because I noticed with Jarrett that he releases down there too, and that's the reason why.
Get a
his
slow
leg-
motion video of Jared one time. If you say he's a righty or lefty,
Righty.
when you go, he's a sidearm guy.
No, he goes more over body. He's 3/4 slot though.
Okay. Take a video of him in slow motion one day. See what he does, and you'll see where he is. Right. You always want to learn from the guys that throw harder than you because they're doing something right. That's what it is. Feel bad if you want. That's okay. But obviously, what do you think I learned from? You gotta learn from the best, major leaguers, right? That's where I try to learn from.
Yeah, as soon as you told me about getting down lower and stuff and turning the shoulders, I thought of Chris Sale.
Yeah,
'Cause Chris Sale-
absolutely. He's a sidearm guy.
Yeah, sidearm. And
Absolutely.
He did that
Watch Chris Sale.
exactly.
Don't compare yourself to Chris Sale because how tall is Chris Sale?
6'4", I
You
believe.
need to find a short left-handed hitter thrower that throws hard. That's called Billy Wagner. That's the guy. So watch him and be like, okay, how do I need to move like that? Does that make sense? You always want to find somebody comparable in height, right, that throws at a high velocity to see how they move with the body. Does that make sense? And that's who you want to compare yourself. Don't compare yourself to Randy Johnson. You're never going to be 7 feet tall. Neither am I. If I threw,
Hopefully you'll never hit a bird.
no kidding. Yeah. If I threw like Randy Johnson, I would never break 80 miles per hour. I promise you that. He's a freak.
Human.
Yes, he's inhuman. I'll stop the video there.